All right. Hi, everybody. Today we have Heather Wood on, and she just got her driver's license in December. And she's from Boston area. So, hey, Heather, welcome.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying doing this podcast. I love to drive myself. I'm a quadriplegic that uses hand controls, and so I've been driving since 2005. So this is going to be fun to talk to you because I know you're new to driving. So let's start from the beginning. If you don't mind sharing just like your age and where you're from exactly.
Yeah, sure. So again, my name is Heather, and I am 36 years old, and I live right outside of Boston.
Okay, Boston. Cool, cool, cool. So I know you're in your disability. Paralyzed, but you have Julian-Barr syndrome, right?
Yes, yes. So I was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Sorry. Yep.
It's okay. So many people pronounce it many different ways. So GBS is the acronym for it.
Okay.
But I was diagnosed with that in 2014, a week after my son was born.
Oh wow.
So I just passed my 5-year mark, and it's a severe variant of the syndrome. So I was left with some variation of quadriplegia. So
Oh,
I
really?
have
Okay.
some movement in my legs and some movement in my arms, but not a lot of hand dexterity.
Oh,
So
weird.
I'll talk
Okay.
a little bit more about that when it comes to driving and how that's impacted with.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. So just so I've satisfied my curiosity, your disability, does that just come out of thin air, or do doctors know what causes it?
Typically with GBS, it's caused by your body's immune systems react to a virus.
Okay.
So it's not actually a virus, it's your body's immune system over responding, so trying to fight that virus off, but then
Oh,
confusing and mistaking your nerves for the virus. So it actually attacks your peripheral nervous system.
oh
So
man.
my disability is not a central nervous system, like a spinal
Right.
cord damage, but
Yep.
still affects the nerves, which then ultimately
Yeah.
affects muscle movement and
Ah.
strength and all that stuff. So I have a lot of similarities to somebody with spinal cord injury, but there's also a lot of differences. But I've always found a lot of friends in the spinal cord injury community because we do just
Yeah.
have a lot in common just based on just challenges that we encounter every day
Oh,
as
for
wheelchair
sure.
users or just somebody with a disability. So.
Absolutely. Having an acquired disability, I think, and whether it's your disability or my disability, if you have that memory of before and then after, I think it's so important, to talk to people. So thanks for
Absolutely.
sharing. So, okay, so obviously you drove before your disability came around, right? Mhm.
I did, yes.
Okay.
And I was a fairly good driver, although sometimes my family may disagree with that. I think I was a good driver. And I had been driving for um, 15 years at that point. So
Okay.
when I got sick, and then
Yeah.
to then return to driving again with a different body, kind of, so to speak, kind of thing,
Yeah.
where my abilities were so different, and and but my instinct was to use the gas pedal. Like my foot wanted to move to put the
Right.
brake on and shift into reverse or whatever. So it's very much retraining your brain to do and muscle memory, like break that muscle memory. So
So that was kind of one of my later questions, like what was the hardest thing about it? So retraining your brain pretty much sounds like that
yeah,
was one of the harder parts.
yes, it was definitely retraining my brain for sure. And I think in addition to retraining that brain and that muscle memory,
Yeah.
it was also just believing in myself and
Yeah.
having the confidence to know that I could do it and
Yep.
that there are devices that make it possible.
Yeah.
And just like having that confidence and just believing in myself. So
I
that was what took me 2.5 years to get to that point.
know.
Was I
Okay.
did not drive for 2.5 years after
Oh.
um, I was injured,
Yeah.
and a lot of that was out of fear, that I
I
was
was gonna say.
afraid of
Mhm.
going back on the road because I didn't want to put myself or other people in danger. But honestly, once I got out there, I was
Yeah.
like, this, I was being silly and ridiculous. I should have done it way sooner.
Oh, that's so good.
So, yeah. But now
So
I'm enjoying it.
And that is what I like to hear. I was afraid too. And I think having like the right adaptive driving lessons and people to help you out is so key. So can you tell us about who helped you and how that went for you?
Yeah. So being in the Boston area, I
Yeah.
went with a vendor called the Central Mass Safety Council.
Okay.
And they worked with the rehab facility that I went through. I had an OT, an occupational therapist evaluation, and both the occupational therapist and the driving instructor
Yeah.
were all certified rehab driving instructors.
Oh, cool.
So you can't just get anybody, kind of any regular occupational therapist to kind of do this process with you. So it has to be certified.
Okay.
Um, and so I went through the driving school
Okay.
because there are so few driving instructors that are certified rehab driving instructors.
Yeah.
The wait can sometimes be a long time. I had to wait like 10 to 12 weeks for
Really?
my first,
Wow.
yeah, for my first lesson. So that's what I
Okay.
like to tell people about, that, it's going to take time. So
Right.
go into it with patience, but know that everything that you're doing, as long as you're keeping on top of it yourself, like you're heading in the right direction.
So can I interrupt you for 1 second? Like when you how long were the lessons when you go in? Is it like a half hour, an hour long?
It was an hour and a half long session.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
and I think the reason why they scheduled them for an hour and a half long is because so I borrowed a van because it wasn't, my vehicle wasn't modified yet. So
Right.
I'm actually waiting for it to be modified right now. So I'm super excited to get it back.
Ooh.
So I used I borrowed the van that the school was able to obtain for me to use.
Yeah.
And when the driving instructor drives the vehicle to you, he has to get there and he has to
Yeah.
take the seat out
Oh,
and
yeah.
modify it for you to then be able to drive. So it takes
Right.
a few minutes at the beginning for him to set things up, and then you get in and drive. And usually I was out on the road anywhere between like 45 minutes to an hour, maybe
Okay.
sometimes a little bit longer, depending.
Okay.
And then afterwards, he has to then break things down and get things ready for himself to go on to his next
Yeah.
appointment.
So, out in the Boston area, the Spalding Rehab Center?
Yes, I
How
know them
come?
very well.
So I'm just curious, do they have adaptive driving through their program too, or how come you chose with your program?
Yeah, so I went through Spalding Rehab with the occupational therapist,
Okay.
and then they were the ones that connected me to Central Mass Safety
Oh,
Council.
okay. Okay. I had a feeling that might have. That's good to know. So for advice out there, talk to your OTs and your acute rehab, and they will send you in the right direction.
Right, and your physiatrist too. If you have a
Right.
physiatrist, that's who I initially went through first, just when I started talking about whether I was even eligible. So sometimes some
Right.
people may not even have like the right medical conditions. So sometimes if people have really bad spasms,
I know.
they're not really eligible just because of safety reasons.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I think that there are also some new driving equipment out there that
there
maybe
is.
it's not, maybe it's not an issue anymore. So.
Speaking of which, now I know since you have kind of hands like mine, not completely, but your hands are somewhat paralyzed. So let's talk about, what you use in front of you for your steering and stuff and your hand controls.
Yes, yes. So I went with a left-sided push-pull mechanical driving control. So that's where I brake
Cool.
and I gas with
Okay.
the left hand. And then with my right hand, I use a tri-pin that's on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
So that kind of helps to secure my wrist and my fingers where it needs to be on the steering wheel. So I'm driving with one hand on the wheel, and then the other one is doing the gas and the brake.
Awesome.
And because I have run out of hands now, I don't have any hands to turn on the blinker or honk the horn, things like
Right.
that. We
Yeah.
have to start thinking about other body parts.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have a left elbow button.
Yep. 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 I'm all about the left elbow when I drive too. Do you have a button or what do you use?
So I have a button, but it's right on my left. It's going to be like attached to the door.
Yep.
And so if I hit it once, it will honk the horn. If I hit it and hold it for 2 seconds or 2 beeps or whatever it is,
Yeah.
it will do my left blinker,
Yeah.
3 of the right blinker, and then it will also go through like all the secondary motions, I guess, or whatever
Yeah.
they're called, but which are like windshield wipers and the washer fluid and what's the last one? It is cruise control. Yeah. So
That's great.
gotta have the cruise control. Yeah.
So,
So
and I
there's
know that you stay, and you also stay in your wheelchair, of course, right? You use the
I
Easy
do.
Lock system.
Yep, yep. So I'll have the Easy Lock system. So that's great. I know that there's also some individuals that use the swivel chairs that will
Yep.
scoot over and just sit in the actual vehicle chair. But because I'm driving a power wheelchair, I am going to stay in my chair.
So how's your driving? You know, do you feel pretty good now behind the wheel now that you passed?
Yeah, I do. I feel really confident. So I had about 9 hours of driving lessons, which doesn't really seem like a lot, but because I was a driver before,
Right.
it really came back to me
Yep.
somewhat quickly. The only thing is I did feel like I was 16 years old again, because it's like you have to stop before the line and
Yeah.
then you move forward. So there's like all these things that you need to be aware of, because they're going to test you on it. So you
Yeah,
can't
they will.
go back to your kind of like casual habits that you might have had before when
Yeah.
you were more confident and driving for a lot longer. But
Yeah.
so yeah, that's just one of the things.
Well, that's great. And so did you pass your test the first time?
I did. And I actually, because I am a little superstitious, I wanted to know all the details, like what if, just in case.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what if I don't pass it? Like how much longer do I have to wait to pass it again?
Okay.
And at least in Massachusetts anyways, my driving instructor said that they usually will reschedule it that day. Then you reschedule a couple more
Nice.
driving sessions.
Okay.
And they don't reschedule it for that day, but they'll reschedule it for you for, within about 3 weeks. And so you're able to get back out again. And so I at least knew, okay, if I didn't pass it that day, then it would only be about 3 more weeks. So I only told like 3 people that I was taking the test too.
Oh my God, that is awesome. I'm so happy you passed it the first time. You know, I failed mine the first time and it really was sad. So good for you for passing it the first time. I bet you felt really good.
It was a relief just to have it over with,
Oh, and in the state of Massachusetts, on your driver's license, does it say you have use hand controls or whatever?
Yeah. So that is one of the things that I was going to mention too, is I'm not sure what the difference was, but for me, my driver's license was actually taken away from me when I was injured.
Really?
So whereas I know a lot of people who have spinal cord injuries who never have their license taken away.
This doesn't happen usually. What the hell?
Yeah, it's really interesting that, so people still think, okay, I have my driver's license, let me just go on Amazon, buy some adaptive equipment.
That's
and I cannot discourage that enough. Like, it's going to be, first of all, you're probably not going to be properly trained on it, but also, believe it or not, those devices are actually prescriptions. So your adaptive equipment is a prescriptive device.
So true.
So it needs to come from, a driving instructor or occupational therapist, somebody who knows exactly what you need.
Exactly.
But also, I think most importantly is if you are ever in an accident, I mean, hopefully that would never happen, but if you are, and even if it's not your fault, if the insurance companies ever find out that you're driving without any sort of restrictions or insurance on your license, it's really not good. And it potentially could be pinned on you, regardless of whether or not it was your fault. So
very good
those
advice.
are just like some really important things to think about. Just because of, like, I did have my license taken away, but not everybody does.
No. Well, that's some really good advice. Don't go out and just buy hand controls and just think you can do it, because if you're, a lot of times I bet you some paraplegics especially think that they can just, do that kind of thing. But you're right. There's a certain things you should have an expert teach you exactly.
Definitely.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for that advice. So I think we're almost done. I was just going to ask, since you haven't really been driving yet, I don't think you have too many funny stories about driving on the road again, but maybe I'll have you back in a year from now and you can tell us about some crazy stuff that's happened to you.
Yes, definitely.
And I guess, is there anything else you'd like to add before I let you go?
I don't think that there's really too much else. I just really wanted to, really just encourage people to, if you're scared, don't be, just trust yourself and know that this is going to be the door to freedom. You are going to be able to, I am just so excited to get my van back so I can go to Target anytime I want.
Target runs, yes. And I know that is huge, right? The small things.
It's, I'm so like kind of over having to wait for a paratransit or my PCA to drive me somewhere, and
No,
I just want to do what I want when I want, and it's going to be amazing.
you're
And
gonna
my
love it.
second thing is just to reiterate what we were just talking about, and that's
Yeah.
make sure that you follow the process that your state requires. Like, it does take time, it does take some money.
Yep.
There are some grant funding programs out there
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
will fund vehicle modifications, but just do it the right way so that you're covering yourself and you don't find yourself in trouble later on. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
That is excellent advice. Thank you, Heather. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, and thank you again for having me. This is so exciting.
For sure. We'll have you back soon, okay?
All right, sounds
All
great.
right.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
On the computer. All right. So, hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. So, I don't know a lot about your injury, so I think we should start from the beginning.
Okay.
Mhm.
My injury occurred. I actually just had my 20th anniversary. So my injury occurred, started on December 23rd, actually, 1999.
Okay.
I went to a party. I got dropped off. I was trying to do the responsible thing. I was actually 18 years old at the time. I'd just come home from my first semester in college. And like I said, I got dropped off at a friend's house at a party. And at some point, after I'd had a couple drinks, I made the unfortunate choice of borrowing a friend's car. I left at his house. I drove his car to my house to get into my car. And the last thing I remember was lighting a cigarette up before leaving my house that I had grown up in and everything. And I apparently passed out behind the wheel on about less than a half a mile from my house on the road that I drove every day to and from my house. You know what I mean? Like theoretically, the road that you could say, oh my God, you could blindfold me and I could drive this road. You know what I mean? Apparently, that's not the case. So I ended up passing out behind the wheel, and they thought my foot hit the accelerator.
Okay.
So at one point, the road just kind of bent and my car went off sideways.
Oh, no.
And the back passenger side of my vehicle hit a large rock that was like marking the entrance to a driveway. It was sitting up on like a concrete block. And then it was this large decorative rock. I ended up in the back seat.
Oh, my God.
The people that came to the accident to get me out of the car probably saved my life, just from taking precautions and stuff like that. But then they took me to the hospital. At this point of the day, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Eve now. My mom was actually a registered nurse and worked at the hospital that they were taking me to. But she was actually home sleeping. She worked first shift the next day. So she had no idea until she got like that call from the hospital, like, you need to get here quickly, like your son's been in an accident. So yeah, it was probably not a great experience for her. I know it was horrible. So, but I survived initially. Like my mom and dad were actually like laying across me. The anesthesiologist that was on call didn't show up on time, and I was sitting up with a broken back. So yeah, it was pretty traumatic and pretty terrible at first.
That sounds like really crazy. So how long were you in the hospital for?
I was in the hospital then. I got out. This was in December. I woke up on my birthday, which is January 11th of 2000. So I missed Y2K and everything. And then I didn't come home for good until about May of that year.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what level are you?
I'm T6.
So, and you were how old at your time of your injury? Like 20?
I was 18, actually. Yeah.
Wow. So it's been a while. You've been injured for a long time.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, it's 20 years.
Okay. So I think for you, you've been injured for so long. This is really great to have you on because you can talk about a really clear mind without being too sad about it.
Right.
I like that. So, okay, so you, of course, were 18. You wanted to get back into driving, I'm sure, right away, right?
Right.
Because that's the topic. So let's kind of go right into that, because I think a lot of rehab facilities can be a little bit harder to find for rehab, like driving specialists. So where did you go?
I actually went to a private driving training school.
Okay.
Like I said, it's out here in Pennsylvania, and it was just a guy that taught, everybody to drive, but he happened to be certified in teaching people to drive with hand controls also.
Oh, great.
And I met him through a rehab facility.
Okay. And how did that go? Tell us about it.
It was exciting. It had been at least, I had been driving for almost 3 years when I got in my accident, because back then, I'm so old that back then you could go get your permit in Pennsylvania. You could apply for your permit the day you turn 16.
Wow.
And you could literally go back and take your test to drive the next day and get a license where you had no restrictions. Like, there was no midnight or anything like that. Like,
that sounds good.
So I was driving almost for 3 years when I got in my accident, and then it was actually a little more than 3 years until I drove again with hand controls.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. It's a long time.
Oh my God, and it seemed longer than that, because you know what I mean? Like, you drive because your independence, whether you walk or you don't, right? Like,
it's so true.
You can't get anywhere in public transportation where I'm from.
That's too bad here.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you first started driving with hand controls?
People ask me that, and it was never difficult for me. Like, I have a very basic setup. Like I said, I'm T6, so I have full range of motion and dexterity in my arms, my upper body, my fingers, and all that.
Okay.
Only my biggest limitation as far as driving is balance.
Okay.
Just because, like I said, T6 is about halfway down your back, maybe a little lower going down. But that would be the only difficulty to me in driving, because you're driving, like, you can't really control gravity when your car is turning and stuff like that. So
that is tricky. Yeah. So what kind of hand controls do you use, just so for people want to know?
I have a basic, like, mine is set up for my left hand to do it. I'm right-handed. Okay. But the mechanism, I mean, I don't want to tell people how to drive, but technically you're supposed to drive with only one foot, right? And I don't even remember which foot I used to drive with when I drove without hand controls, but I don't know, using my non-dominant hand feels very comfortable. So mine are set up for the left hand, and it's a very simple push and pull.
Okay.
Where I pull it down toward the floor, or I push it toward
right,
as if you're pushing the accelerator for the brake, and I pull it kind of toward me for the gas.
Awesome. Is it pretty intuitive?
It is, and it doesn't. I mean, and when I've had other people, attempt to use them, some are much more adventurous than others. Like in a parking lot or something.
Oh, valet. Yeah.
What's that?
Do you ever let people, like, out of valet drive your car?
No, I've you know what? Twice in a situation at a casino, they did do the valet, but you can drive my car without the hand controls. So
same with
that's
me.
what I tell everybody.
Yeah.
But other people think it's difficult, and they're like, well, I would get so confused. And I said, well, yeah, but you don't think about it when you drive with your feet. It's the same thing almost. Like I said, it was very easy for me to get used to it from the beginning.
Well, I'm glad it was so easy. Yeah. So what kind of car do you have?
I have a 2014 2014 Toyota Sienna.
Okay, so is that an easy car to transfer into, or do you use the ramp, or what are you doing?
It's a side entry for me.
Okay.
Because I've never used anything other than side entry.
Okay, cool.
But this is a side entry, so my passenger sliding door opens and it's ramp, and I go in the ramp.
Nice.
and I turn around and then I transfer actually into a driver's seat.
Yep.
My driver's seat goes like front and back and swivels around and lets me turn it so I can transfer into it.
So why did you decide to do a van over a car?
Well, I've tried cars before. Like one time after a mechanical issue in my van, my insurance paid for a rental car.
Okay.
And it was some sort of Pontiac G6 or something like that. It was a nice car.
Oh yeah.
But the van allows me to use my power chair, which I use regularly when I go out, just because it enables me to carry more things and go further distances and not be a mess if it's raining or snowing or I said when I had the rental car in the sedan situation, like I said, if it rains or snows and you're outside, to transfer in and pull the chair across you and
no, thank you.
Mess, right? And a lot of people don't have the dexterity or the upper body strength to do that. So that's what did it for me. I don't know. I've met other people in wheelchairs who call me, I don't want to say call me, but feel that it's lazy or, you know what I mean? Like,
really? I don't think that's very nice.
Well, I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion and stuff, but
I think that when you can't move your legs, you can't move your legs. And if you want to use a ramp, you have every reason to use a ramp. So.
Right. I agree.
You can move your arms normally. I had a yoga teacher who's paraplegic, transferred himself for decades, but finally got a minivan because it's like, screw this, my shoulders hurt. Right.
I mean, that's how I look at it. Like when you transfer enough times, like your shoulders hurt already. You know what I mean? Like I contemplate even replacing the factory driver's seat in my van sometimes, because I'm like, to go anywhere, I'm transferring 4 times just to leave the house, go get gas, and come home. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, no way.
Like, I don't know. It's better probably for certain things to keep transferring, but who knows?
Whatever. You can transfer yourself into bed at night and feel good about yourself.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I wish I could transfer into a car once in a while. Like I have a minivan, right? I wish I had like a convertible for fun.
Well, of course, right.
I couldn't drive it even if I wanted to, though.
I mean, if I lived somewhere that warm and that dry, like the Southwest, I think I would definitely attempt to buy a convertible for a second car.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun? I know.
Yeah.
So what other, like as a disabled driver, I know you've had some crazy stuff happen to you with maybe getting pulled over by a cop or someone not realizing you're a disabled driver. Do you have any stories you want to share?
Let's see. Here's one. So I ran out of gas twice on my way home from work, like in one day.
Oh, what?
And what do you do when you don't walk? Like, so I worked an hour from where I lived at the time.
Okay. Oh, no.
And I literally passed the one exit on the highway I was on between work and home to get gas. So I ran out of gas still in New Jersey, still like 45 minutes from my home. So I called AAA because I had it, thankfully, and they came out and they gave me gas. And I explained to them before they even came out, I said, I apologize, and I'm not trying to take advantage of anyone, but understand, I'm not going to pass another gas station if all you bring out is what you're telling me, like a quarter of a gallon, like whatever gallon, like they might have brought a gallon, right?
Yeah.
And they just said there was nothing they could do. So I literally had to call them back, and they resolved it. Like they came out again, but I mean, if they wouldn't have, I don't know how I would have gotten home to this point.
Was it like the winter time too?
No, it was actually over the summer. So I had that going for me.
Well, still, you can't push yourself down the freeway.
Well, not only that, but there was nowhere on the stretch of highway that I was on or that I had to travel. Yeah. Like literally both places I came to a stop, there wasn't room for me to get out and like go anywhere anyway. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you're totally trapped.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So that's a good tip. Always keep your gas filled.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So, I guess, as a disabled driver, I think another thing I want to talk about is just what it means to you, driving. A lot of people, when they asked, who wanted to be on the show, they're like, oh man, driving is like so much more important to me now because, it's more like therapeutic. Some people just said it was really good for them mentally. So do you have anything to share on that at all?
Driving absolutely is independence and freedom, and it's empowering even.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, just to be able to get out of your four walls. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what? Some days it's raining and you can't just go for a walk or a roll around the block, you know what I mean, to clear your head.
Right.
And like I said, to get out, like the internet is wonderful, and the ability to reach out, like for people like you and me to do something like this is awesome. But, for somebody in a wheelchair or anybody with any disability, if you can't get somewhere that you need to go to, you're never gonna network, you're never gonna work, you're never gonna be able to go to doctor's appointments. Like, I mean, depending on other people and public transportation, I mean, that was for me the biggest thing. Like, before I drove, I had gone back to college like immediately. So for the first 2.5 years I was going to school, I got taken by like accessible public transportation.
Yeah.
And, some days they're early, some days they're late. Like, I mean, thank goodness for them, because I wouldn't have gotten there without them.
True.
But at the same time, like, being able, once I got my license and a vehicle that I could use myself and get to and from, like, it just changes your whole outlook and perspective on life and what you can do.
Yeah, it does. I just love the feeling being on the road. There's something like very freeing. Like, I can't use my legs, but the wheels can move,
Right.
There's
Right.
something about it. I feel like I'm running.
Right. Exactly. Like, it's the fastest you can go. Like, sometimes it just feels good to like do that when you have an open stretch of road too.
I know. I've been known to speed a little bit, I think, because it feels too good.
That must be a thing, because I definitely drive faster than average. I did get pulled over. One cop pulled me over for speeding, let me go.
Okay.
I don't know if it was wheelchair Jason or not, or related.
Wheelchair
Hey,
Jason.
I'll take it if that's what it was. But another time, it definitely did not matter, and I got multiple tickets. Actually, in the rental car that I told you about, when I used my manual chair and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a quick rental car. It was a Pontiac G6.
Cool.
And I definitely did want to experience like a little freeing like burst of speed.
Oh no.
And yeah, definitely got pulled over and clocked at like 80 something. But like, that was definitely, I had seen him long before he got me on radar. So
I think we could do a whole show though. I bet you though a lot of wheelchair users get tickets kind of waived once the officer knows you're in a wheelchair. Don't you feel like that's a thing?
Honestly, I wish I did. I don't necessarily. Like I said, it hasn't been my experience. Like,
Okay.
I've gotten multiple tickets.
Seriously? Okay.
Yeah, and I said one of them that I'm specifically remembering was like, it was like doing 66 in a 60. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, so he wasn't being nice. No.
Right? Like, I was like, really?
That's a dick move right there.
Right?
I don't like that. No, I don't know. Maybe it's a girl. Because I had a couple cops just like, let me go.
Well, look, women do better overall. My mom tells me that. My mom had a cop follow her for over 2 miles, he told her. And she didn't even realize it, because she was shocked when she was pulled over.
Wow.
And he let her go and told her basically, slow down and one of your lights out. She was probably doing like literally speeding through a certain stretch of road that he followed her on, and he still didn't ticket her. And she's gotten pulled over multiple times for like a license plate bulb or a tail light being out, and never gotten a ticket. So.
Wow. Well, you talk about white privilege too. Being white kind of helps.
Yeah, I should have.
But that's pretty cool. I know. So at least we're having fun on the roads and enjoying ourselves. I like that. So, do you have anything, final thoughts to share on driving with disability? Any, advice to people that are maybe thinking about driving?
Do it. I mean, absolutely. Like, you don't know, like, it sounds cliche, but like, you don't know what you're missing by not being able to get yourself where you need to be. I mean, if you live in a big city and mass transit is accessible and reliable and fits your needs, I mean, that would be awesome. I would love,
Yeah.
honestly, I am super envious of Europe and Asia, apparently, because their mass transit is super, super, like, high speed and modern and
On time.
yeah, and accessible. Like, I mean, when people build new and systems and like infrastructure, like, it's all accessible. And I don't know why we're not doing this. I literally live less than an hour away, like in a suburb of Philadelphia.
Okay.
And there isn't a train I can take from anywhere close to where I live to take me to Philadelphia.
Are you kidding me?
Is that not crazy?
Are you kidding me? And not a single train.
Not a single train. And there's tracks. Okay, there are tracks everywhere.
That's embarrassing.
It is. But so that's what I said. That's why driving. That's what my advice would be: is if you're in a situation where mass transit or public transportation isn't accessible,
it's a must.
Yeah, it is a must. I mean, as long as it's financially.
That's the thing. A lot of people don't have the means, and I feel so bad for people that don't. And I know that there are financial resources. Like, did you get any help from vocational rehab?
No, I didn't, and that's a weird, like, vocational rehab. My experience with vocational rehab, whether it was from the very beginning and help with home mods to later help with a potential vehicle.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything for me personally. Like, I think they gave me some money for school.
Right.
It was like $500 a semester or something like that for a couple years. But I never got help with housing or vehicle mod. For a vehicle help, they told me if I went back and got a master's in vocational rehab, they would potentially
really
pay for me to get a vehicle if I would do that and agree to sign a contract and work for them for like 3 years or something like that.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, that's kind of silly. You know what I mean? I was like,
no,
that's not great. Yeah. So.
Okay, that's too bad. Well, I think some people have used crowdfunding nowadays to raise money. Not that I had my family help, but and also too, I know that some van shops, they offer loans for people too if they have jobs, right?
Right. I guess there's a positive and a negative, like everything in life and disability especially. But I have a decent interest rate on a vehicle loan that's super long term. Like,
yep.
I had my first 3 vans were used and very dated.
Yep.
So eventually I was in a position that I could afford to buy a brand new one. And I'm financing it for 10 years.
Wow. But you know what?
Right.
You don't need another new car as long as you make sure you're careful.
Right. And that's what I said. I mean, even if you have to replace certain aspects of the modification, if the rest of the van, I'm not working currently, so I'm not putting mileage on like crazy. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Yep. See?
It's about to be 6 years old and I have like 40,000 miles on it. You know what I mean? So
nice. See, that's one of the benefits too. The cars do last longer.
Right. Yeah.
I hope you have indoor parking for your car.
I don't, and that's we're attempting to move in the next like 6 months, and that would be great. But yeah, there's definitely no indoor parking now.
All right. Well, that's a whole thing we'll talk about later. Thank you for sharing. I think it's really good to talk to people about their driving experiences. Sounds like for you, it's been pretty easy sailing.
It's been pretty smooth transition for me. Like I said, I got my license then again after I got hand controls, and that's funny to me too, because there's no designation on my actual driver's license
Really?
about using hand controls. No.
I know.
Crazy.
There's not on mine either. Shh, don't tell
Yeah,
anybody.
I know.
Yeah.
But who knows?
All right, well, let's go with that. We don't want to have to go back to the DMV, do we?
Right. No, definitely not.
So thanks again. And hey, have a great rest of the winter.
Absolutely.
Drive carefully.
You too, be safe, and look, I'll be on the lookout, but if there's ever any other topics or things that I could lend a hand to, I will reach out.
Absolutely, Michael. We will see you again on this show, I hope, very soon.
All right, take care. Thank you.
All right, yeah, talk to you later. All right, hey, everybody. So we are back with Kenneth. He is from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and he's a paraplegic. And I'm excited to have him on because he makes customized hand controls. Hey, Kenneth, welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for talking about your injury and your driving post-injury. I know it's it's a little bit, personal. And so thank you for coming on. And so if you don't mind, let's start with how you're injured. I know you've been a paraplegic for a while, right?
Yeah, it's been about 20 years now.
Wow. Okay. So how were you injured?
It was a car accident in T10.
T10. All right. Are you a complete injury?
Yes, it's complete.
Okay. So wow. So you were how old then at the time of your injury?
19 at the time.
All right. So I imagine you were driving a lot before your injury.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And were you a big fan of driving and everything before your accident?
Yeah, I've always been into cars.
Okay. What kind of cars?
Mostly Volkswagens.
Mostly Volkswagens, which is an interesting car to be in as an American. I think it's really cool. So we'll talk about that in a second. But so after your injury, you're 19. And so at your level of injury, it's kind of a little bit easier to get back into the driver's seat. But for you, how long did you wait after your injury to drive again?
I was probably out of the hospital for about 2 weeks and started shopping for cars and found one.
You really that fast?
Yeah.
So did you have to go through a driving specialist to get certified to drive again?
No, I just had to retake my road test.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Did they kind of have to look at your hand controls and all that stuff, or?
They didn't really look at them that much. They just had to make sure everything was in proper working order. But that's
okay. I was under the assumption that you had to go get certified by a specialized person to have your controls verified as safe. Was that not the case in Wisconsin then?
Well, most of my cars are newer, so I've got actual off-the-shelf hand controls. But on the older ones in Wisconsin, the cars are supposed to meet the safety regulations of the year of the car. So
okay.
So there weren't really any hand controls back in the day.
So where in the heck do you buy hand controls? So I'm imagining you're newly injured 20 years ago, and you're just going to buy hand controls and put them in a car. Is that really what you did?
Yeah, you can find used sets on like Craigslist and eBay and stuff like that.
Okay, from other people that are paralyzed trying to make money or that kind of thing?
Or people that buy a car from someone that's paralyzed and they left the hand controls in the car.
That's cool. Is there a lot out there on the market?
They pop up once in a while, probably once every couple months. A set will show up on like Craigslist. There's quite a few on eBay.
How do you verify that they're good and safe to use?
You just kind of look at them. If they got the serial number, they're an actual off-the-shelf manufactured part.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of go through and make sure all the bushings are good and all the pivots and everything is not loose, and everything is tight and works good.
Do you have a favorite brand for anyone that's out there and newly injured, wondering where to go or what to buy?
I like they're the MPD brand controls.
Okay.
They seem to be, they fit well. They're pretty universal, so I go through a lot of cars, so they switch from car to car pretty well.
So this is really interesting about you. Not many paraplegics out there, I don't think, switch cars as often as you do. So are you just you're a gearhead. So how many cars do you have?
Right now I have about 5 that are in running condition.
That's pretty crazy. And so you use the same hand controls for each vehicle?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll switch. And then right now I've got hand controls in each vehicle, but the
Okay.
hand controls in my daily driver have been in probably 10 different cars so far. So
That's crazy. So it must be pretty easy to swap them out, or is it just easy for you since you've been doing it? For anyone who's wondering, gosh, this guy must be really good. Could I do it?
the hardest part is basically the bracket that mounts underneath the dash, because
Okay.
that's different from car to car.
Okay.
So so sometimes I'll have to have a different bracket fabricated for that.
Oh, really?
Otherwise, yeah,
Okay.
everything else is straightforward.
That's crazy. You know, I am a quadriplegic, so I use a lot more complicated driving stuff. But for someone of your level of injury, do you even need anything more than just the hand controls, like anything for the brakes? I'm sorry, the blinkers or the auxiliaries?
Um, I adapted pretty well, so I can
Okay.
use my right hands for the hand controls, and then I just
Oh,
kind of
nice.
slide my hand over to the other side to run the blinkers.
That's pretty cool. You know, humans are very, very adaptable. I feel like most people, if they really want to get behind the wheel, will figure out a way. And for you, this is cool. So, how did you decide you want to make custom hand controls for your bug? Because that's what I think I was so interested about when you told me about this. So, let's talk about first of all, why a Volkswagen bug? Because those things are really little.
Yeah,
Mhm,
I've
mhm.
always been into Volkswagen because my dad has had Volkswagen, so I've been
Okay.
around them growing up. So,
Oh, all right. Your dad was a Volkswagen fan. Did he have a bug or did he have the big wagon?
well, he's had quite a few of the bugs and a couple of the buses. So.
Oh, cool. So, geez Louise, I'm just trying to imagine as a paraplegic transferring into a VW bug. Was it hard at first getting into it?
It's not too bad just
Okay.
because actually like it's a little bit easier than some of the newer cars because the newer cars have a wider door sill.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you got a higher further place to transfer to, whereas in the bug it's fairly close to the seat.
So, forgive me because you're a lot probably more educated on this technology a part of cars and stuff, but how come your typical hand controls didn't work in the VW bug?
The bug there, the pedals are hinged from the floor instead of
Oh,
being hinged from the underneath the dash.
okay.
So so that didn't quite line up. They would work, but it just didn't feel very safe or comfortable.
Okay.
So
So
I
you
had to
took it
come up
upon
with something.
yourself to build completely customized hand controls. So that's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. So was it hard to do? Did you have any help doing it?
Um. Well, my uncle owns a metal fab shop, so I was able to get some of the custom metal stuff bent up there. But I do
Cool.
AutoCAD, so I drew stuff up in AutoCAD and then had him
Nice.
build it.
Is this like your main job? Do you do this for money?
I don't build the hand controls for money, but I do the AutoCAD
Mhm.
for money.
That's
So
pretty
stuff like
great. So, well, I mean, so as a driver, who can't walk, have you ran into any crazy stories while you've been driving? People think you can walk and then give you, any issues when you're parking in handicap parking or anything crazy like that? When you're in, because I know when you're in a normal car like that, people probably have no
that.
idea that you're a guy in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a few of those where people kind of give me dirty looks because I've had like sports cars before. When you pull up into a
Oh yeah.
handicap spot with a sports car, they give you a pretty dirty look. So,
I bet they do. But I bet you get a lot of questions too from people that just want to know more
yeah,
about what you're up
yeah,
to. Are you more
yes,
than happy to explain to people what you're doing and how you do it?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, I bet kids love to see your cars.
yes. Especially with the bug, everybody talks about because everybody's had one or their parents have had one or something like that. So,
Is it one of the old ones or one of the new ones?
one of the old
Old
ones.
ones, right? Yeah, of course, because they have the weird hand foot pedals. Does that mean it's
Yeah,
like a 1960s something or a
yeah.
70s?
1964.
64. Holy moly, that's an old one.
Yeah,
Is it orange?
it's red.
It's red. My dad had an orange VW bug, and I remember him having to push it down the road to get it to start.
Yeah, my dad's had something like that too.
So you're pretty, I just talked to a quadriplegic before I had you on, and she had so many more adaptations. So it's really cool to get both perspectives of someone, that
Yeah,
just needs hand controls and can just make it work. So for you, I think for you, I want to kind of ask just one more question. I mean, you are so able to, use different cars and stuff. So what kind of cars would you just recommend for someone who's shopping and not sure what to get?
okay. Well, the first thing is probably something with a big enough door opening. So usually a 2-door is better, but there are some 4 doors that have a good sized opening. Like I
Okay.
had a Subaru Forester a
Yeah.
while back, and that had the door opening wasn't as wide, but it was high enough that you
Okay.
could get the wheelchair through that way.
Oh,
So
That's a good
basically, the door opening is the big one, and then the other one is the width of the door sill. Because if
Okay.
you have a difficulty transferring, you want a narrower door sill.
Narrow door sill. Okay. And so the Subaru Forester is the one car you'll recommend, but are there any other cars you'd like to give shout outs to?
I've had Volkswagen Golfs. The 2 doors those work pretty good.
Really good too.
And I'm trying to think, what else did I have?
Any trucks or bigger SUVs work for you, or is that just too hard?
I've had one SUV, and it works out all right, but since they're higher off the ground, it makes the transfer a little bit more difficult that way.
Yeah, why strain your shoulders every day, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So you're quite the experienced driver. I feel like if anyone's out there may have any questions, could they write and ask you any questions? What's your email address? Because someone, yeah.
It's vwfreak@hotmail.com. That's VWFREEK at
Well,
hotmail.com.
that's vwfreak@hotmail.com. I love it. That's perfect. Well, thanks for sharing your insight into hand controls. You're quite an expert on it. And thanks, and if anyone's listening, Kenneth Folkman, right? That's the name.
Yes. Yep. That's the name.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day too.
Yep. Bye. Hey, everybody. So we are joined by our very last guest for our show this month on adaptive driving. We're joined by Kimberly. Hey, Kimberly, how's it going?
Hey, it's good. How are you?
Doing fabulous. I'm glad that you're talking about your adaptive driving journey with us. I know that you recently got your driver's license, right?
Yes, I did.
Oh, that's so cool. So before we go right into all of that, why don't you just talk about where you're from, how old are you, and your injury and how it happened?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Hey, everybody. So I'm Kimberly Ivory. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I was injured in 2009. I was 18 years old, and it happened when I was a freshman in college.
Oh.
And sorry, it happened when I was a freshman in college.
Okay.
And
freshman. Wow. Okay.
Yes, I was a freshman, and what happened was I was with some of my classmates, and we were going to a football game. And we got in the car, we were headed to the game, and for whatever reason, we didn't make it to the game, so we decided to go back to campus. I fell asleep in the car. One thing led to another. Why the accident happened, I'm not really sure. That's a little fuzzy. But I woke up in the hospital, and they were like, you broke your neck, and I have a C7 spinal cord injury now.
C7?
Yeah.
So that means you have some hand movement, right?
Yeah, I have a little hand movement, a little bit, not much.
Okay,
but
okay. So it's been almost 10 years. And so I think I remember on your Instagram post, you had driven before your injury, right?
Right, yeah. So I
Okay.
drove a little bit. I got my license when I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're an avid driver, and then you had to take you had your injury, of course. And then let's talk about that. I know you had a super long break after your injury from not driving. And how come you waited so long? Was it because of money, or were you afraid to drive again, or kind of what was it that
It was probably a combination. So 10 years I didn't drive after my injury. It wasn't all my fault. So for about 5 years after my injury, I really focused on school, and that was really my main goal. I was like comfortable getting rides from people, from friends, family. And then probably after the 5-year mark, I was like, well, you know what? I'm ready to start driving. And I went to, we have a government agency called DARS or TWC. Every state has their own. But I went there, and my counselor was kind of like, well, do you have a car? And I didn't, and my parents weren't willing to really buy me a car at that point, and I didn't have the money to buy one, so I figured, let me focus on school, let me finish out, school, then I can pay for my own car, I can kind of, continue on with my driving goals, so that's kind of why I waited.
And also, you're saying car, which means you didn't need a van, right?
And I'll get to that point, but yes, well, they recommended a van, I want a car. So I'm still talking to my counselor about that. We're still trying to figure it out because I really want a car.
I don't blame you. Yes, yeah. I don't blame you. If I was a C7 quad, I would be all about the car situation too.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you can get it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's more practical to have the van. I get it. She talked to me all about, the rainy weather and transferring into a car and how much, it's going to be an inconvenience for me. But I'm dead set on that car. So, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm open.
That's a big decision. That's a big decision. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did you get directed to this agency? Was it your rehab facility in Houston there, or how did you find them?
For years I knew about them. Probably my physical therapist or maybe my occupational therapist told me about it over the years.
I love being connected with those types of people. And so you went over there and you're like, hey, I want to drive again. And so what was the process like for just to get set up for someone that's interested in doing it?
So the process was I had to get a doctor's prescription. I had to get that. They sent the prescription over. I had to fill out a questionnaire kind of about my medical diagnosis. And then I went in for an evaluation. And then also the government agency had to pay for it. I had to wait for that.
Right.
And then went in for the evaluation so they could kind of see what all I could do, check my cognitive ability, check my physical ability. Yeah. And then and then they recommended, I think, 20 hours of driving training.
Okay.
And then
20 hours. 20 hours. Okay.
20 hours, yeah. And that
so let's talk about that. What was it like being behind the wheel again?
It was scary. I'm not gonna lie. First day, I was really scared. I didn't know what I was doing. I was so used to I know my legs don't move, but I kind of was like trying to move them in a way because that's what I remember. But it was a little scary. But then day 2, I gained a little bit more confidence and I felt better about it, but it was scary at first.
It's a little scary. And were the hand controls hard to use, or did you use the kind of the lever pull ones that are under the wheel, or what kind did you end up using?
The hand controls that they recommended, I think, one was called the push rock.
Yep.
And then the other one was called the tri-pin.
Yep.
That tri-pin, right? And so she said that was a little better for me because you know a quad, steer the steering wheel a little better. So.
Okay. So you're at this point. So you got your license like literally like last week, or
literally, yeah.
So cool. That was it. How did the test go? Was it hard, or did you pass it? Was it your first time passing?
Yeah, I passed on the first try. It was scary. You know, my driving instructor was like, you know what? You better nail this. You know, she really like scared the life out of me. She was like, okay, for the parallel parking, if you hit anything, you're going to fail. And I had that in my brain. Like the night before, I was like, okay, if I hit anything, I'm going to fail. You know, what am I going to do? I got to start all over again. So probably the parallel parking was the hardest part for me. And I did that first. And then once I got past that, it was smooth sailing. I was fine.
How's your balance when you're driving? Are you able to keep yourself upright pretty good while you're driving?
That's another thing. She recommended a chest strap for me. And I tried to tell her, look, I'm fine when I do my turns. And she's like, oh no, I see you moving to the side a little bit. And I'm like, oh no, I'm fine. So that's another battle that we have going on. She really wants me to get the chest strap. And I'm like, no. So my balance is so-so. It's okay.
Well, you have your license now, so it's all up to you at this point what you feel comfortable doing.
Right. And that's what she said. At the end of the day, it's up to me. She can recommend it, but it's really up to me if I want to use it. That's true.
Great. Well, it's going to be cool to hear about how you, like in the next 6 months, maybe talk to you again to see kind of what you ended up like preferring and stuff as you're driving, because things definitely changed. And you haven't gotten your car yet, right? So you're kind of,
I haven't.
All right. So my recommendation to you is this: go for the car, because you can always get a van later on in life. Get your car now. Transfer yourself for 8 years. Get a car. Get a van when you're an old lady. That's my recommendation to you.
That's what I told my evaluator. I was like, you know what? I have years to drive a van. Right now, I'm 29. I'm relatively young. Right. Yes. But while I'm still strong, you know. And I'm able to, you know, transfer myself in and out, break my chair down. I mean, I'm not 100% breaking my chair down yet. That's something I'm still working on. But still, I'm still motivated and strong enough. Let me get the car.
I think you should do it. Tiffany. I listen. In my other world of life that I wish I still could move more, I would be a car girl. I would be totally a car girl, and I can't be a car girl because I'm a stupid minivan girl. But if I could, I'm cheering for you. Get a car.
Thank you. Right. And listen, nothing is wrong with the minivan either. Listen, if it comes to the point where I cannot do it and it's unbearable, I will get the minivan. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the van. I'm cool with that. But right now, I feel like I can do it. Honestly,
you should try it at least, since you're so new to driving, and then you can decide later on what you want. So, all right. So I think, you know, this is so cool to talk to someone that's new to driving. So what are you most excited about now that you have your driver's license? What do you want to do with your license? Just go out and just drive and just hang out and enjoy the road, open roads?
I finally get to play my own music in the car. I have silence. For the longest, or for 10 years, I've always had somebody in the car with me. So I cannot wait to just have peace and quiet, or listen to whatever songs I want to, or just go where I want to. I cannot wait for that. I'm so excited. That's the part I can't wait for.
Driving when you're paralyzed, I swear to God, everyone that I talk to that drives in there, they can't walk. There's some therapy in driving. It's really great. So enjoy it down there in Texas. Be careful on the roads. And I don't really think I have much else to ask you since you're so new. So I just want to say thank you. Enjoy and be careful down there. And good luck picking out a car.
Thanks, Tiffany. I appreciate it. Thanks for talking to me. I appreciate the opportunity.
I love your Instagram account. And for anyone that wants to follow you, what's your name on there again?
So my name on Instagram is Ivy Rose 112.
I love that.
Yeah,
name.
And I also have a YouTube channel as well. It's Kimberly Rose. Kimber. It's Ley. There's the E right there. But
cool. I love your name. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you, and I will talk to you later, Kimberly.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Yep. Bye.